Chapter 31. Thornbird Raider Group. You are listening at Novel Full. Audio. Under the dim star light at some corner of the Milky Way, there was a space station. From the structure and design of the station, it should be an old model that was used as a hub. Any industrial space ships that passed this station could all park here to rest a bit. The crew members could partake in recreational activities like getting drunk at the bar, picking up some chicks and refilling fuel. Now that the space station was abandoned, it was taken over by a group of raiders. On the sides of the space station were painted two giant bird symbols, showing that the present occupants of this place were the members of the Thornbird Raider Group. In the Milky Way, there was a big difference between raiders and space pirates. Space pirates never land, they just intercepted transporting or commercial ships, while the raiders would go anywhere to rob as long as the loot was valuable. Generally speaking, raiders were a much more violent group that was developed on the foundation of space pirates. They were much more powerful and cruel as well. The 4-star Esper, the strategist of Thornbird's Fu, walked past the mess at the lobby. The pirate all had 3 big hobbies: money, women, and alcohol, and Thornbird raiders were no exception. A group of captured girls were forced onto the floor by the drunk raiders, and made to play a game called Drunken Chicken. This game was really simple and cruel. You forced the girls to drink, and when they were drunk on the floor, then the obvious will happen. Fu slightly frowned. He didn't like this kind of uncivilized game, but of course he wouldn't stop his brothers. If it wasn't for the lawless environment and piles of cash, which Esper would be willing to be a robber. For the raiders, they could do whatever they wanted during their free times, as long as they give it their all on the battlefield. Fu walked past the lobby and arrived at Lucas's, the boss, office. Lucas was a bit drunk already, and in his arms were 2 naked little girls. He wasn't wearing any clothes either, showing off his terrifying scars and bronze-colored muscles. In this world there were 2 types of robbers. One were those criminals that had nowhere else to go, so they could only join raider groups, like Fu. He was the most intelligent existence in the group. His shirt was always pure white with not even a speck of dust on it. And then there was the second type that were natural-born outlaws. They loved the chaos, insanity, and living their lives on the edge of knives. Like Lucas, who was born as an outlaw. Fresh blood and alcohol were his favorite pastime. "Oh, my counselor is here, what is it?" Lucas reluctantly pushed away those 2 beautiful girls, gestured them to get out and invited Fu to sit down in front of him. Fu sat down and said in a deep voice, "Our client wants us to hurry up and execute the deal. The United Government of Earth is very likely going to finish discovering the C-ranked extinction domain soon. If that happens, Earth might have enough income to form a stronger military, and by then our client's plan of colonizing Earth will have a lot more obstacles." Lucas started to laugh out loud, stood up disapproving and yelled, "It's easy, I will just go myself and kill and loot everything on that place called Earth." Fu shook his head, "Boss, Earth isn't suited for large-scale war." "Why?" Lucas was a bit confused. "A lowly planet that just joined the Milky Way Alliance under 20 years ago, do we not have enough men to stomp it?" Fu slightly frowned, "Boss, on the meeting a month ago, I already analyzed the situation. Did you forget this quickly?" Lucas scratched the back of his head and carelessly said, "I forgot, but that's why I have you right. Why can't we just attack Earth?" Fu actually disliked Lucas's careless character, but he was a smart guy and obviously wouldn't display his true emotions. He only responded sincerely, 9 years ago, the Earth Esper Lake won a huge spot at the Galactic Meet. After the event was over, Earth got a Space Fortress-ranked battle cruiser as a reward. Now that 9 years have passed, I believe that Earth is potent enough to command the cruiser to quickly join battles. The strongest class of battleship in Thornbird is your Eris-ranked destroyer. Although we have a lot more battleships than Earth, but without such a large ranked battleship still puts us at a disadvantage, and in a battle of assault and fortify we might not be able to win. Secondly, although the rumor says that Lake went missing right after the Galactic Meet, we still can't rule out the possibility that it's not Earth's tactic of deception. The Space Fortress ranked battle cruiser Na 5-star Esper Lake, these are Earth's only 2 cards in their hand, but they pose a large threat to us. Third of all, we sent Duo Ear to raid Earth before, it was a business but it was also our initial assessment of the strength of Earth's power. The result was the complete annihilation of Duo Ear. The Espers on Earth are very courageous and united, which was beyond our expectation, and they actually killed Duo Ear before the military arrived. In conclusion, I strongly disagree going head-to-head with the United Government of Earth. Regardless of how weak they are still a country. Lucas nodded slightly. Actually, he didn't like Defoe's style either. He doesn't play with women, doesn't drink, and doesn't gamble. Nothing about Defoe looked like a robber. But he knew, Defoe's intelligence was essential to Thornbird. "Counselor, what do you think we should do?" Lucas asked. "Very simple, hit and run. According to our intelligence, the guy responsible for discovering and conquering the extinction domain is called Liu, a 4-star ranked Esper. As well, there are about 10 to 23-star Espers. They must be the core strength of Earth's extinction site administration." Lucas scratched his chin and said, "But our client wants the extinction domain. If we destroy it, our client will be unhappy." "That's no problem. There are 4 extinction domains on Earth, 2D class, 1C class, and 1B class. Up until now, Earth has already explored the 2D class, but they weren't able to provide too much income, but B class is too difficult for Earth at their current state to explore by themselves. So the only obstacle is that soon-to-be explored C class extinction domain. If we destroy it, then we will have destroyed Earth's hope to get back on its feet. And by the end of next year's galactic meet, if Kulake really went missing, then our client can take over Earth without using a single soldier. What our client really wants is the B class one. How can they not be happy if we destroyed a C class so they can get a B class? That's why, for us, the fastest and most efficient solution is to destroy the C class extinction domain. We will send Pan Gongjin on the Reaper class frigate to execute the plan, use an energy field to completely seal the entrance to the extinction domain so that the enemy can't send any reinforcements. Then let Nan Gongjin lead a troop to rush into the domain, plant the bomb and quickly retreat, completely blowing up the site and all the Espers inside. From start to end, we only need 3 minutes to finish the battle, and we can avoid facing their battle cruiser that way too." Lucas actually didn't care about how many of his guys died, but it's obviously better if the job can be done without any sacrifices. "Good, then this task will be assigned to Pan Gongjin and those guys to finish. There will be large rewards after that job gets done." Chapter 32. The Dangerous Night. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Extinction Site Administration, South Pole Base. The base was shrouded by an intense and anxious atmosphere. Han finally understood why he hadn't seen Li Yu or Wu Di for such a long time. They were actually working hard in the extinction domain. No wonder the training center was always empty. The majority of the Espers here were actually on the assault and they were fighting with their lives on the line inside that extinction domain. As to the progress in extinction domain exploration, Han didn't understand at all. It seems like exploring extinction domain is quite different from those archaeology projects. A high number of Espers were stationed inside the domain and it was also extremely dangerous. There were always Espers either severely injured or killed getting carried out of the domain, and the medical team was the second busiest department in the base. Even the janitors at the base became a lot more careful than before. Everyone's walking pace were significantly faster, and no one spoke in a loud voice in public anymore. Han's circumstances were a bit special. Although he was registered as a member of the Esper administration, he doesn't really have any duties. Li Yu just wanted to return the favor and let Han use the training facilities at the base. Now, Han already had 983 points in Power Source Index, and he was at the gate of breaking the barrier to becoming a 3-star Esper. At midnight, Han finished writing the index reports like usual, set it as a scheduled post, and went to find Pathless Origin. It's a bit unbelievable, you managed to reach the gate of a 3-star Esper in under a month, that speed is a bit insane. I'm starting to worry whether progressing this fast will leave an unstable foundation. Other side effects, that it seemed like he was really satisfied with Han's speed of progress, maybe even proud. He started talking more and more to Han. In the past, Han always had to be careful and ask only 3 questions, fearing that the odd Pathless Origin will get irritated. But now, even if Han asked him 30 questions in a row, he will still answer one by one. Han's fingers were quickly typing on the keyboard. That shouldn't happen, right? Every day I put in a lot of effort on those fundamental exercises. I heard from others that normal Esper soldiers started to learn higher-level fighting techniques when they reached 2 stars, but I'm still practicing the basics and it seems like we are planning to continue practicing them. Pathless Origin was a bit unsatisfied. Why do you care about what other people do? They started learning higher-level martial arts at 2 stars because it usually takes them 1 to 2 years to advance to 2 stars, and you only took a little more than 1 month. How could that be the same? Han quickly responded, "Teacher, don't get angry, I was just saying it. And for my achievement up to date, I feel like it's mainly because of your help, otherwise I would be nowhere as close to what I am now. I will soon be pushing for 3 stars, teacher, do you have any pointers?" You had to admit it, Han really knew what to say to change his teacher's mood, staying very humble and respectful. Han also discovered, Pathless Origin kind of had the temper of a little kid. He got mad easily and frequently, but he quickly forgets about it later. With your potential, you are going to reach 3 stars for sure. So, the main objective is still to stabilize your foundation. Today you can practice in the 0.50 degrees Celsius area of the pool. The moment you reach 3 stars, go back to the shore immediately, put on your battle suit and go back into the water. Training in extremely cold water is mainly for exploring potential, and now that you are progressing at such a fast pace, you will occasionally need a break and focus on stabilizing the new energy you gained. Tonight just do what I say and you will be good. Han nodded, understood, I will go train right away and report back to you when I'm done. Alright, go, remember to use the proper dose of source energy pill. Han brought his battle gear, including his tritanium dagger, and came to the familiar pound in a delightful mood. Today's guard on duty was still blonde-haired Charlie and Big Nose Fo Lyman. Every night Han will meet them at the entrance, so they have already become friends with each other. Charlie was a guy that liked to smile. He had a great personality and he always joked about Han not being able to give birth to a son because of staying in the cold water for so long. Big Nose Fo Lyman was a serious guy, his eyes were focused on Han the entire time. With Han's authorized level of access, he shouldn't be anywhere near the entrance to the extinction domain, and seeing Lyman's expression, it was as if Han will get arrested if he gets 1 step closer. Seeing Han coming from far away, Charlie smiled and yelled, "You are on time again, Han. I told you before," my grandpa said. Not even waiting for Charlie to finish, Han said, I know, stay in cold water for too long and I won't be able to have a son. You are a really boring man, every day making the same joke. I would say, a daughter is pretty good too. When my mom was alive she always said that a daughter is like a little cotton padded jacket, and she always regretted not giving birth to a little sister for me. Here's some midnight snacks for you too. Han smiled as he gave a bag full with food to the 2 guards. Those 2 couldn't leave their post, and Han always came at around 3 o'clock in the morning, so he brought them food. Han was about to head to the little path on the side when suddenly, the heavy gate of the extinction domain opened up. Wu Di walked out and saw Han. "5th brother, I haven't seen you in a long time. What's the situation down there?" Wu Di was the youngest student of Li Yu's 5 students, so Han called him 5th brother. Wu Di let out a long sigh, heavy sacrifice. But finally we are close to taking control of it. Han asked curiously, I don't really get what happens in the extinction domain, but I saw that all of our brothers at the base were all very worried and nervous. Also there were many severely injured brothers getting carried out. Thanks for the hard work. Wu Di shook his head. Our brothers even sacrificed their lives for this, so our hard work is really nothing in comparison to their contribution. You don't know how important this extinction domain means for Earth. Since we are already at the last stage of taking control of it, I will just tell you. As long as we can secure this extinction domain, there is hope for Earth. Now, the biggest program for Earth is money. You saw the equipment that Charlie and F.O. Lyman are wearing. Those are all from the second-hand market from space, and the quality is only okay. And that's our Earth's Extinction Site Administration Department. The other department's equipment quality is even worse. The entire Earth Army only has one battleship that can travel across the Milky Way, and it was still something that Galactic won from the last galactic meet. We have around 15,000 Esper soldiers, but the majority of them don't have any weapons or equipment, not even access to training facilities. If we can take down this extinction domain, Earth will have waves and waves of income. We can use the loot from the extinction domain to trade for GC, buy some equipment for our troops. And if we are lucky, we can even buy a few more battleships. Now you tell me how much this extinction domain means to us. Han was shocked. It means that Earth can finally be really recognized as a country in the Milky Way. It means that we can finally form a real Esper military. It means hope for Earth. Wu Di answered in excitement, that's right. That's why teacher said, even if he has to die in the extinction domain this time, he will make sure that we take this extinction domain. For Earth and the future of us humans on Earth, this is our responsibility. All the brothers in there have all swore to God, even if it costs them all of their lives, they will still take over this extinction domain today. Maybe it's because it's almost over. Wu Di's mood was a lot better, that's why he chatted for a bit with Han and got Han's blood boiling. Although Han don't know what was really happened in there, but with over a 40% death rate, the assault troop is still in there giving it their all. They are really the true men. Can't talk more, I have to go to the control center. There's no signal in the domain, and headquarters is still waiting for my report. Wu Di patted Han on the shoulder and started walking towards the control center with big, proud steps. However, Han realized Wu Di was walking with a limp. It seemed like his leg was injured. Looks like there will be a result tonight, pray to God that nothing goes wrong. Han was rethinking about what Wu Di just said and he said to himself, after tonight, I will be a 3-star soldier too. How about I sign up to join the assault team and offer my contribution too? Chapter 33. Past 3 stars. You are listening at novelfull.audio. GDN Chapter 33. Past 3 stars. Water under 50 degrees Celsius was obviously not something normal people could handle, even espers that enter will soon freeze to death. And the training that put his life on the line was also what made Han's training so different. Maybe no one else's training method was more unique. Under Pathless Origin's mentorship, Han placed himself constantly in extreme conditions in order to forcefully activate the 0-degree brain region to fully unleash the power of that unknown predecessor. Hard work yielded results, and due to Han's unique way of training, his level had been increasing at an insane rate, breaking past both 2-star and 3-star within 1 month. If other people heard about this speed of progression, many will doubt that Han was even a human. Of course Han was a human, he's just a bit more special. Everything in this world came with a price, and Han's lightning speed of improvement obviously didn't just fall out of the sky. He traded it with hard work and sweat. Constantly walking at the edge between life and death was not something anyone can do. The cold water domain stimulated Han's physical body and mental state, also triggering his 0-degree brain region to madly generate source energy. So, is inheriting someone's power a good thing? Of course it is. An elite's essence of lifelong training getting absorbed by another person, why would it be bad? It's just that absorption is easy, but what was difficult was the infusion. The majority of people that acquired their predecessor's power crystal wouldn't be like Han, paying heavy and cruel costs just to increase 0-degree brain region and infusion rate. That's why, they only got the power, whereas Han will actually completely activate everything left behind by his predecessor. In the negative 50 degrees Celsius pool, for every 10 minutes Han trained, he would get the same results as 10 hours of training done by normal people. After close to an hour, Han felt that his 0-degree region was actually pumping and trembling. After having the last experience, Han knew that this was the harbinger of breaking through a star level. The insane training had brought even more insane result. After only a month, Han had already reached 3 stars. The collision of force was much stronger than when he was breaking past 2 star, and Han almost felt like his body's going to explode from having too much source energy. The water inside the pool was roaring and splashing in all directions. With Han's body as the center, a giant vortex appeared inside the pool. Esper Soldier 3. Star level has been reached. Han spent an entire half hour relaxing his body before finally climbing up ashore. He put on his battle suit and picked up his tritanium dagger. Tremor was a typical melee weapon. It had a sharp edge that also had an intricate curve, and the back of the edge was as heavy as an axe. The handle was metal as well in order to increase weight to balance out both ends of the dagger. Han picked up Tremor. The dagger that he once felt was way too heavy now feels very light and maneuverable. Even as a heavy knife, it can still be used with great dexterity in Han's hand. As for the battle suit Black Celestial Python, its weight wasn't even 1/5 of Tremor, so putting it on felt like Han was still naked. Han tried to stretch his body. It felt quite comfortable with no resistance. The material that went into the construction will indicate the level of the armor. Black Celestial Python was recognized as the king of pythons, capable of growing to 25 meters, and with a body covered by a layer of scales so refined that it didn't even allow air to pass through. But although the scales were very refined, it had an outstanding tolerance for physical attacks. In fact, the Black Celestial Pythons were known because of this, because their species' tolerance for physical attacks were just way too unfair. With that seemingly invincible scale and skin, they often picked fights with opponents even 10 times larger than them in size. However, the Black Celestial Python's weakness was as outstanding as its strength. Although being almost invincible towards normal physical attacks, it was not so great in terms of defending against other powers. Thunder, fire, and ice elements could all do serious damage on Black Celestial Pythons. That's why Pathless Origin kind of despised the Black Celestial Python battle suit and labeled it as 2.5 star. But for Han it was a completely different story. He could already defend against power attacks, and now he just needed protection against physical attacks, which made the Black Celestial Python a fantastic combination with him. Han excitedly returned to the pool for practice, and due to the battle suit, the cold water wasn't able to hurt him at all. Han followed Pathless Origin's advice and slowly practiced the 46 ensemble training, continuing to relax his body and mental state. Teacher finally allowed me to use the weapon. For the next step, he's probably going to teach me weapon techniques right. Han started to wonder. Training with bare hands was totally different from when you had a weapon. Generally speaking, training with a weapon required greater control of balance, because after all there was another 40-something pounds added to your right hand. At 6 o'clock in the morning, Han ended his training on schedule and was ready to go back to his room to rest. Pathless Origin said continuing to push oneself was necessary, but occasional relaxing for a bit was also necessary. After a long 1 month of extreme training, it was time for Han to loosen up his tight mental state. Suddenly, just when Han was about to take off his battle suit, a huge sound came from the ground, as if a nuclear bomb was detonated around the base. The water inside the pool started trembling, the stone ceiling and walls began to fall apart. It was immediately followed by more explosion sounds, but they were far weaker than the first one, sounding like mines or hand grenades. Something's wrong. Han was shocked for a second. He immediately grabbed his tritanium dagger Tremor and rushed towards the gate. Before even reaching there, Han could already hear the sound of fighting and killing. Han accelerated, he jumped out of the side path, and witnessed a fight breaking out at the front of the extinction domain's gate. Gold-Hair Charlie was already lying in a pool of blood lifelessly, and Fo Lyman was surrounded by two unknown espers in the corner. Ginxie a fireball was fired right into Lyman's face, and he had no choice but to raise his arm to block it. At that moment, the other esper on the side took advantage of this and sprinted at Lyman, stabbing him twice in the chest. No! Han yelled in despair. But it was already too late. Lyman and Charlie, the two loyal guards, had already collapsed onto the floor. At that moment, Han finally saw the enemies clearly. A small dot-sized fat man and a muscular man, both in black battle suits with a strange bird icon on the back. One tall and one short, the two espers quickly turned to Han. The strength descent big man led the charge with the short fire descent esper following behind. It seemed to be their typical combination. Another raider group from space. Han's eyes became widely open as if they were about to explode. He had seen that type of battle suit before. It was the same as that fight in Shanghai, the group of enemies that took away 7 lives of Earth's espers. With eyes filled with red anguish, Han charged right into those two, raising his dagger at the same time as the strength descent raider raised his sword. Void End. Open. Chapter 34. Han vs. Thornbird Raiders. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Han charged right at the muscular raider, his eyes turning red. A cunning smile appeared on the face of the tall and muscular raider. He saw that Han was about to step right into their trap and quickly stepped aside. Immediately the shorty raider suddenly shot 2 fireballs right at Han. This was their usual combination. The big guy tried to attract the enemy attention and dodge immediately before the clash to create an opening for the shorty to shoot fireballs. When the fireballs hit, the big guy will then wickedly take advantage and jump onto the enemy and end their life right there. It was a very logical and efficient tactic which utilized great synergy between range and melee. It was also a trap that enemies could easily fall into if they were not prepared. But today, they faced Han. The Han that possessed the Void End. Secretly, the Void Domain was already summoned. Han didn't even need to dodge the enemy fireballs, and he held on tighter to his tremor, ready to strike. The fireballs that entered the Void Domain immediately vanished, and the two raiders were completely confused for a second. But at that moment, Han had already arrived right in front of the big guy. The black edge drew a beautiful curve under the quiet night sky, slicing through that big guy's neck. Ginxie killed in one shot. Han didn't hesitate at all, continuing on closing in the shorty. When had shorty run into this kind of strange event, seeing the big guy get his neck cut by Han? He wanted to keep on using his fire power to attack Han. Unfortunately, he lifted his hand, but nothing came out. Han's Void Domain had completely taken his fire power. What welcomed him was only Han's icy cold dagger. The edge passed through both of his hands, and sliced his head right open like a watermelon. Ginxie fresh blood mixed with white brain fluid, it splashed up at least 3 meters high. Double kill. Han couldn't care less about those 2 bastard raiders. He anxiously kneeled down beside Charlie. Charlie's signs of life had been weakening drastically. He felt very weak, but he struggled and opened his eyes, took a look at Han. The usual smile appeared on his face again. Hairstyle, is it still fine? Very. Han quickly responded. His eyes turned lifeless and he passed away. Han closed Charlie's eyes and felt his eyes tearing up. He lifted up Charlie and wanted to bring both Lyman and Charlie to the doctors. Han only saw Lyman putting one hand on his chest, struggled to sit up in his pool of blood, trying to stop Han with his eyes. I can't make it. Defend this place. Please. Defend. Without finishing the sentence, Fo Lyman collapsed and his breathing stopped. Han let out a painful cry, his eyes were blood red, and blue veins were popping out all over Han's forehead. Suddenly, Han heard footsteps from the passage ahead. It was the enemy closing in. Han clenched his teeth and stood up. Fuck. We were delayed by a bunch of weak Earth espers. The Ken brothers should have opened up the extinction domain portal yet. Those people were stronger than predicted, but that's okay. We have completely sealed off headquarters so they won't have any reinforcements coming in. It's our world now. Due to the echo from the passage, Han could clearly hear their conversation. Delayed by a bunch of Earth espers. They were probably the brothers on night shifts at headquarters. If they were sacrificed too, it was very likely that Han's the only man left capable of defending the portal. Headquarters was sealed off. This meant Han won't be able to wait for any reinforcements. He had to face everything on his own. About 20 raiders have closed in. The two sides spotted each other at the same time. Wu Di's words were still resonating in Han's ears. Today decided the fate of Earth. If the extinction domain could be successfully captured, then Earth will have hope in the future. And Lyman's last words, at the final stage of his life, he was still thinking of his duties. Han doesn't have any big principles to live by or any important responsibilities, but he really loved his home. If that little park where Han and his mother used to fly kites was no longer there, if his friends were no longer there, if those places and people that created the precious memories inside his brain no longer existed, then what was the reason for continuing to live? Han once thought, with a galactic passport, if Earth fell he would just go live on another planet. But now, he realized. Even if his physical body was to leave this place, his heart and soul will always belong to his land. Instead of running away like a pussy, he would rather die trying. He will sacrifice his life, and defend this homeland that he truly loved. Tonight, I will protect this place for you guys, I swear on my life. Han felt blood surging inside his body. Han held tighter onto Tremor. At this moment he has no other choice. He had to stand here, and stop those raiders at any costs. Even though he was alone, even though he would probably die alone. There's one more left. I will finish him. Careful, the Ken brothers died to him. A black-haired man with a stubble quickly charged out of the crowd. He was very quick, and was able to jump again before his feet even touched the ground. He opened his arms, summoning a dark cold wind. Wind descent. Han was shocked for a second. He chose to charge instead of dodging. Shua, that man was called Wang Xiaoshan. He was a very powerful fighter in the Thorn Bird Gang, a 3-star ranked esper, and was also the right-arm man of Pan Gongjin. Wang Xiaoshan smiled faintly, crossing his arms in front of his chest, forming a weird gesture. Wind had always been a very cool-looking ability, and what Wang Xiaoshan was using was called the double-edged wind blade, a long-range wind attack. The strong wind soared like blades, capable of wiping out an entire army. It seemed like Han wanted to engage in a melee fight, but Wang obviously wouldn't give him that chance. Shua, he swung both arms. The move was as good-looking as always. But what was strange was, not even mentioning any wind blades, he didn't let out a single fart. After being within 10 meters range of Han, Void Domain had mercilessly robbed away his power. Just at the moment of shock, Han already arrived in his face, lifting up his tremor and sliced down as hard as he could. If Wang immediately stopped relying on his power and fought Han in melee, maybe he would have had a chance. But humans always have a habitual way of thinking. Wang never knew how powerful Han's power was, and he was still thinking of letting out another wind attack. He folded his hands and gestured towards Han, still trying to say, Mad Wind. But before even letting him finish saying the name of his ultimate, Han's tremor had sliced through Wang's shoulder, removing his entire head and neck from the rest of the body. Mad Wind, your mom. Han cursed. Triple kill. That was Void End, the most brutal power in this world. The moment someone entered the Void Domain, no one's power was useful. Either you fight Han like a caveman with a weapon, or you die. Stop. Pan Gongjin found it very odd. He raised his arms and halted his squad. Di Fu strongly recommended him to lead this operation, not without reason. Pan Gongjin was not only cold-blooded, but very intelligent. He was not like the typical brainless warrior that just jumped right into a fight. What happened? How did Xiao Shan die? Where was his wind blade? Where did Xiao Shan's wind blade go? The raiders began to worry. They've never seen an enemy as strange and mysterious as Han. It looked like Han took away all of Wang Xiaoshan's abilities. If he can take away Wang Xiaoshan's, then couldn't he take all of theirs? With his back to the extinction domain, Han raised his head. He held a blade in his hand, a black dagger. The body of the blade was as black as the night. Fresh blood was dripping non-stop from the tip of the sword. The enemy's blood. At this moment, he was on his own. He had no other choice. Chapter 35. Pentakill. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Pan Gongjin had a pair of cunning eyes. It was only for a brief moment and he already figured out a plan. You and you. You two go kill them. Pan Gongjin ordered emotionlessly. The team led by Pan Gongjin were all 3-star fighters, the rest were defending the outside. Among the assault team, the two strongest espers were the ground descent Zay Knight and the wind descent Wang Xiaoshan. Seeing how Han killed Wang Xiaoshan in one shot, Pan had no choice but to be cautious. The two fighters he sent were two of his weakest followers. Pan was planning to send them as sacrifices to gain more, reveal Han's fighting style and power. The two fighters knew what their cruel leader was planning, but they had no choice but to man up and charge at Han. Pan's caution was usually an advantage, but it was the largest mistake he would make today. Han could triple kill the enemy because he relied on nothing but two things. First, he was the unique mystery descent void end user, capable of robbing anyone's ability. Second, he had the balls to fight on the verge of life and death. Against someone as hell-bent as Han, the most effective method was to all attack at the same time. As the saying goes, 2 fists are tough against 4 hands. Han couldn't possibly take so many at the same time in a melee match. But Pan Gongjin was too cautious. When being pressured by time, he actually chose to gather intelligence on Han first, giving up the best opportunity to kill Han. Shua, the two 3-star raiders charged towards Han. They were both power descent espers. Although they didn't have fancy powers, they have a lot more strength than others and they tend to focus on doing their physical training. Their muscles weren't something Han could ignore. That's why it was actually tougher for Han to go up against 2 power descent espers than the other raiders he had faced before. But, there was another fate-deciding factor on the battlefield, and that's the sheer force of character. From the moment Han became an esper, he was always learning with the most extreme training and battle methods. Even when he's spectating fights he watched the broadcast of death that only aired bloody brawls to the death. That's why, Han's willpower far exceeded his control for techniques. He was using the most basic techniques but he fought without worrying about death. You give me a cut, I will give you 3 cuts in return. But the thing those 2 espers lacked was the sheer force of character. The moment they entered Han's void domain, they suddenly felt as if their power was taken away, so they lost the mental battle right off the bat. Then, after getting chased by Han who was swinging his dagger like a madman, the 2 matured esper raiders were completely suppressed by Han on the battlefield. They were too busy defending Yaga against Han's attacks and couldn't find any opening to attack. Han knew very clearly, he took advantage of Void End's power. Anyone that enters his domain will feel weakened at first, and he needed to finish them off completely before they could ever had a chance to adjust. But 1 against 2, it was already hard for Han to be the winning one. How could he finish the battle quickly? There was no other way, you need to trade it with your life. Martial art users are practicing techniques with their lives on the line. Fight to kill. Hit every punch. Trade eye for eye. Only surrender in death. Han suddenly remembered what Pathless Origin had told him in the past. Shwa the Black Edge suddenly came slashing down. Han started trading blows with the enemy. It seems like he doesn't care at all about the enemy's edge ending up on his body. What's called hell. Bent. You can give me a slash, but my next slash will kill you. The enemy was completely lost against his attacks. Han didn't block nor dodge but chose to slash right back. Is this guy insane? Han was completely committed, but the enemy couldn't do the same. He nervously tried to flee to the side to dodge, but his speed was not as fast as Han's edge. His blade landed on Han's shoulder and left a bloody cut, but Han's tremor landed on his neck. It ripped him apart. Tonight's quadra kill. Injured Han turned around and his eyes were set on the other raider. He used the same method. Without even bothering to dodge, Han began to fight him with his life. Kacha the enemy saw how insane and fearless Han was and also how his teammate got ripped apart. Seeing Han turn the target to him, he was so lost in fear that he turned around immediately trying to run. Ginxi Han slashed open that guy's back. 5th kill. New York, headquarters of the Earth Esper Administration. A big screen was broadcasting the situation at South Pole live, only to see a Reaper-class frigate pierced headfirst into the center of the base, activating its energy shield and using it to completely separate the center of the base from its surroundings. That's the tactic the Space Raiders used, isolating the center so that none of the surrounding Espers that were resting could attend the battlefield. In the display, the Esper soldiers at the Extinction Site Administration were trying very hard to attack the energy shield. Unfortunately, the Reaper class was a medium-sized frigate. How could a bunch of average Espers rip open its shield with only their bare hands? A heavy weapon was needed to destroy the energy shield generated by a medium-sized frigate, but the South Pole base was an exploration site, not a military base, so it was not equipped with any heavy weapons. Another large screen was playing Han's battle. The quality was a bit blurry but people could still see Han and how he was defending the base on his own. The Reaper-class frigate could cloak and it was equipped with powerful defenses, but signal disturbance was its weakness. Although separated by an energy shield, headquarters could still acquire real-time signal and information from the South Pole base. When Han finished off the 5th enemy in one swing, everyone watching at the headquarters in New York was speechless. It was a result that no one predicted. It wasn't because there was no elite Espers in the Extinction Site Administration base, since Li Yu's army was probably one of the strongest on Earth, but unfortunately they were all stuck inside the extinction domain, leaving Han on his own outside. Although it was only Han, but his hell-bent and fearless character was able to fend off the enemies. That was beautiful. Who is that guy? According to our record, he's the Han Lang that was brought in last month by exception. He's from the Asia District, possessor of the powerful Dark Descent Void End ability. That can't be right. 1 month ago he was just a beginner, now he's 3-star. When Han's personal file was found, people saw a steady line that was going through the roof. This was Han's power source index progression graph. His number was like a rocket soaring towards the sky, showing no sign of slowing down. Chief of the New York headquarters, Talon, was also very excited from seeing Han's courageous performance, but he was very clear that it would be impossible for Han to defend against the raiders by himself. How long till our air fortress arrives at the South Pole? Talon yelled. At least 3 minutes. That's too slow. The enemies chose to attack us at this time, they most likely want to destroy the extinction site. Command Air Fortress to advance at full speed. Chief, they already are. Our brothers on the ship are also very anxious. Talon didn't say anything. 3 minutes. It's still unclear whether little Han could hold out for the crucial 3 minutes. If he loses, then it means that the entire Earth will have lost. The Lady of Destiny showed its merciless face, putting the fate of the entire Earth on some unknown boy. Can he defend against these brutal raiders? Suddenly, someone at the control center yelled, "FUCK. The raiders are storming Han." Chapter 36. I still got a bunch of tough bones. You are listening at novelfull.audio. After all, Pan Gongjin was an experienced fighter. From the last fight, he completely understood Han's power and his style. In conclusion, Han's power was most likely a unique power that could grant him immunity towards other powers. Another possibility might also be that it was some mind-controlling power that restricted enemies from using their abilities. But regardless of what power Han had, he needed to get into melee range in order to kill, and that was his only method of combat. A merciless smile surfaced on his face. Pan yelled, "This guy isn't scary at all. Everyone follow me and storm him at once. Let's finish him." Right after the sentence, the 11 raiders that were still alive followed Pan Gongjin and charged at Han. 1 against 11 enemies, which also included a 4-star Esper. This was clearly a hopeless fight. But, Han had no other options. If he retreated then he would be at the Extinction Domain entrance, where Li Yu and his brothers were fighting with their lives on the line. If Han couldn't hold off the enemies at this spot, not only would he die, but everything Li Yu and the brothers had been fighting for would be in vain, and Earth would lose its last hope. It didn't matter how small and weak Earth was, it's still my home. Han suddenly thought of the last words that Pang Zwilin yelled before he sacrificed himself. He felt a stream of hot blood coursing through his veins. Earth wasn't just Pang Zwilin's beloved home, it was also Han's, and every brother and sister on Earth. Han was born here and grew up here. This beautiful blue star had left Han with memories that he wouldn't ever be able to discard. Even if it meant death, he still didn't want to see the home he grew up in lose all hope and see his brothers and sisters become either homeless or slaves. They charged. That group of ruthless raiders charged at Han, pairs and pairs of evil and malicious eyes, weapons reflecting cold and merciless light. Suddenly, Han raised his left arm, his expressions began radiating a feeling of darkness. If there's no other way out, then let's all die here. The combat medicine box was opened, entirely opened. All the drugs stored inside the box were swallowed in one mouthful by Han. Source Energy Pill, 67 doses. Nuclear Energy, 10 doses. Sensory Enhancement Pill, 10 doses. Shockwave, 10 doses. 0-degree Relaxation, still 10 doses. The people that saw that scene at headquarters started shedding tears. That was a big handful of drugs, all of those combined far exceeded the tolerance level for a normal human, and Han would be dead for sure. The people at headquarters thought that those were just normal pills manufactured on Earth, but little did they know, the handful that Han swallowed were all illegal drugs from the Dark Net. It would be poisonous enough to kill a normal human more than 100 times. But, even if it would cost his life, Han wasn't planning to back away from the fight even one step. Han's eyes suddenly changed color entirely, turning into a crimson shade of red. The large doses of illegal drug quickly circulated to his entire body. The source energy was originally flowing like a little stream inside Han's body, but within 1 second, that little stream had become like the rushing tides of an ocean, surging into every cell inside Han's body. Ah! Han let out an angry battle cry, and started charging towards the group of raiders. His hair was all standing up and his face was twisted like a demon from hell. Illegal drugs in more than 10 or 20 doses really had an insane effect. When slashes landed on Han's body, he couldn't feel a thing and quickly counterattacked. He was already surrounded by too many enemies, but Han discarded the feeling of fear, and the killing became more fun and free. Martial art users are practicing techniques with their lives on the line. Fight to kill. Hit every punch. Trade eye for eye. Only surrender in death. Han really understood the meaning of all those words. Within a blink of eye, Han's body had taken 7 or 8 cuts, but the group of raiders also lost 2 fighters. And as for the raiders, they were disgusted, completely disgusted. The moment they came close to Han, it was like as if they saw a demon or something and became completely powerless. Their only option was to trade blows with Han. For espers that never imagined a day where they could only use weapons like ordinary people, they dedicated their entire lives on mastering their power and left physical strength aside. Unfortunately, Han's void end was that unreasonable. Capable of nullifying all power. Want to kill Han? Yeah, sure. You just have to show what you are really capable of doing it without your power. In Han's world, it didn't matter how fancy the power, they were all useless. The only things that mattered was who was more merciless and lethal, whose strategies were more subtle and whose combat consciousness was more insane. Talking about consciousness, it had to be said that Han's sensory skills in combat was excellent. He noticed a guy among the enemy group that was a bit different from the others, carrying a big military backpack. When Pan Gongjin commanded everyone to storm, he was the only one that didn't join in but took 2 steps back instead. Something was definitely fishy. Han seemed like he was aimlessly fighting and trading blows with the enemies, but he had a clear goal. His goal was to get to that guy with the backpack. After killing 2 enemies and taking 7 hits, he forced open a bloody trail in the enemy crowd. He suddenly rushed to his target, raised his tremor up high and struck down with brutal force. Gotcha! As the enemy tried to dodge, Han cut the string of the backpack and took the heavy green military backpack into his arms, and gesturing immediately to slice it open. At that moment all the raiders went crazy. Inside the bag was nothing short of a small ion tremor bomb. They planned to place it inside the extinction domain and destroy Earth's hope with it. Ion tremor bombs were extremely powerful but very unstable as well. If Han actually tried to cut the bomb, then it was very possible that everyone will die. Although Han fought like a madman, he wasn't stupid. He saw the fear and nervousness inside the enemy's eyes, so he only slashed hard enough to cut open the bag and show the gray spherical bomb. He grabbed the bomb in his arms and took a few steps back. Now it was time for the enemies to be nervous. They all looked at Pan Gongjin asking about what they should do. The people at headquarters saw the scene, they were in complete shock and couldn't believe their eyes. By himself, facing a group of ruthless raiders, Han not only killed 8, but also took control of the situation. Looked like the raiders were actually scared to make any moves, fearing that someone insane like Han would actually set off the bomb. Now, Han's only thought was to keep the enemies away from the entrance to the extinction domain and try his best to get Liu more time. So, he led the raiders to where he trained, that pool of freezing cold water where he's most familiar with. Time was passing by second, and Pan Gongjin knew that they were running out of time. Earth had an Air Fortress-class frigate. It was an extremely powerful battleship, and if that thing were to cut them off, then they were done. By now, Han already retreated to the edge of the pool. The drugs were rolling in his body like tens of thousands of sharp daggers, stinging his organs and muscles, and it felt even worse than death. But Han was still holding on, because he knew that was his only option if he wanted Earth to keep its last hope. Little brat. Pan Gongjin finally broke the silence and yelled, "I will give you 2 options, either you give me that thing and I will let you live, or we will attack you all at once and kill you." Han's face already became pale white, and he started laughing like a madman and yelled, "Let me live. What kind of joke is that? I don't have anything else, but I still got a bunch of tough bones. I will die, but you mother heirs don't think of living either." Pan Gongjin felt a sudden dizziness from getting too angry and embarrassed. He brought his best subordinates and he couldn't chew the tough bone Han. Retreat. Time's up. That fearful air fortress was about to arrive, and there was nothing they could do about Han, so someone cautious like Pan Gongjin chose to retreat. Retreating back to Thornbird would be impossible. Screwing this up means that Lucas won't let him live. Pan Gongjin's only option would be going to another raider group. The raiders heard Pan's command to retreat and felt a sudden feeling of relief. No one wanted to continue playing with someone as insane as Han. This fight was disgusting since the beginning. Suddenly, just when they were about to retreat back to their ship, an aged voice loud enough to tremor the ground sounded. "None of you are leaving today. Completely swallowed by the drugs, Han focused his eyes and saw Liu. They were out. The strongest army on Earth, the army that was executing the hardest job on Earth. They finally came out of the extinction domain with victory. That moment, Han had reached the end of his tether. He was able to stand for this long in front of so many enemies and not back off from the fight. He relied solely on his undying battle will, and the drugs that far exceeded normal dosage. Now, those illegal drugs have begun devouring Han's body. He finally lost consciousness, and fell. He fell into the cold body of water, one hand with the bomb, one hand holding the dagger, that black dagger that was still dripping blood. At headquarters, everyone started crying. Han's last words were still lingering in everyone's ears, not going away. I don't have anything else, but I still got a bunch of tough bones. Hi guys, thank you so much for being patient with me. I have 2 more exam and 1 final project due in the next 4 days, but I will try to squeeze out some time to get some translation done. Anyways, thank you guys so much for the support so far. Chapter 37. Galactic Chess of Chaos. You are listening at novelfull.audio. At last, Han collapsed. He fell down into the 170 degrees Celsius pool. His body was covered in wounds, which quickly froze in the presence of the extremely cold water. In fact, under such a temperature, the wounds were not the only things freezing. The cold had shut down every cell inside Han's body. That when Han lost his consciousness and gave up resisting, there was still one thing struggling inside his body, and that was Han's 0-degree brain region. Under the stimulation of the extremely cold water, his 0-degree brain region was shining with a strange light, blinking on and off, like some emergency signal. After undergoing the extreme training, Han's 0-degree brain region had adopted a habit. Whenever the extreme cold pushed Han towards death, it would release abnormally large amounts of source energy to ensure Han's survival. Pathless Origin's extreme training method forced the fusion between Han and his inherited 0-degree brain region. Not only was the potential of the power crystal fully revealed, the power and his body synced perfectly. This time, the 0-degree brain region still didn't want to give up, it was struggling. However, Han already went unconscious due to fatal injuries and drug dosage. And this time, without the support of Han's body, that brain region couldn't go on by itself. After struggling for around 20 seconds, the light started to dim, eventually going out, and leaving Han's brain in total darkness. On a mysterious planet in Milky Way, in a castle constructed in the forest, lived a strange old man. People sometimes saw him in long black dust coat lost in thought inside his backyard full with fallen leaves, with a cold, expressionless face. He never opened his mouth to talk. The old man didn't have any kids, he lived in the dark castle by himself. The nearby villagers started gossiping that this old man was the incarnation of devil, so they never allowed their children to go close to that castle deep in the forest. This strange old man was Pathless Origin, the man that led Han to the most extreme path of training in combat. His clothes were always black, black coat, black shirt, black boots, black hat. Pathless Origin had a pair of very sharp ears that seemed to be capable of sensing and seeing through everything, but today he was trapped in confusion, because Han hadn't asked him any questions for many days already. He always thought Han was just some little brat that bothered him every day asking random stuff, which was very annoying. But now that Han stopped, he realized that his life had become much less interesting. Go back to selling on the dark net. Don't joke anymore, Pathless Origin's website didn't sell more than a few items every year. Due to his odd and impatient temper, his only customers were introduced to him by Night Walker, and most of them got so verbally abused by him that they never showed up anymore. Han was his only loyal customer. Although he almost never bought anything, he always asked basic and funny questions. After time passed, answering a few of Han's questions and scolding him a few times had become an essential dose of fun every day for Pathless Origin. Now that Han had disappeared for a few days, Pathless Origin actually couldn't really adapt. Finally an email. Pathless Origin clicked it open and frowned. It was just Nightwalker wanting to play chess with him. This little black. Pathless Origin cursed. He went to an old but very exquisite virtual pod in the corner of his room and laid down. Schwa. A few seconds later, Pathless Origin and Nightwalker met in the virtual world. Nightwalker looked like a dork no matter how you saw him, in his gold-framed glasses sitting under a big tree. Under the tree was a white chess board carved out of granite. It was quite big and looked really complicated. This was the Galactic Chess of Chaos, a very ancient but challenging chess. The legend said that the universe at birth was just a giant ball of chaos, incapable of separating black and white, or by planets. The way to play was not put pieces onto the board, but to take them off. Whoever controlled a larger portion of the galaxy wins. The younger generations barely touched this type of chess anymore simply because there were much more fun things to do out there, leaving only these nostalgic old people to still play this kind of long and dry game for fun. Pathless Origin sat down in front of Nightwalker and mumbled, "That brat couldn't be dead right. Before, he always annoyed me with questions on a daily basis, but now he has disappeared for many days already." Nightwalker slowly took away a piece, and answered, "Oh, you are talking about Han. His drug index isn't updating anymore too, and the people on the forum were pretty angry. He's going to lose a big chunk of his clients this time." Pathless Origin gave Nightwalker a white eye. "Old black, sometimes I really don't get you. Why would you associate yourself with those ignorant retards, and try to coax a bunch of children in that stupid forum? Is it fun?" Nightwalker shrugged his shoulders. "Of course, although the younger generations are a bit short-tempered, but they are ambitious. And now I'm someone with wife and kids, and when my daughter gets married, I will have grandchildren, and great-grandchildren. So, of course it's necessary for me to stay in touch with what the younger generations are up to these days, right? And also to make some money to feed the family." Money. Pathless Origin looked at Nightwalker in a strange way. It seems like he really despises money. Old black needs to make money. That's the biggest joke I've ever heard. Nightwalker very sincerely nodded. "Yeah man, last month I made about 2 million GC, and I was so happy that I accidentally agreed my daughter to give her a big house when she gets married, and I've been deeply regretting it ever since. So, that's why I need to work harder and make more money. There's also my wife. She wants a big ring with a big cobalt ultramarine galactic diamond on it. I accidentally agreed too. That thing costs at least 5 or 6 million GC, and now I'm still sad about it. I'm saying, do you really plan on hiding in Dark Net forever?" Pathless Origin asked in curiosity. Nightwalker answered plainly, "If we can't fight it then of course we have to hide. And if we are going to hide then we have to be good at hiding. You named your website Origin of the 10,000 Paths, and your name is Pathless Origin. That's called hiding. That's you showcasing your ass online. Mind your own business." Pathless Origin scolded back in a rude voice. Nightwalker smiled a bit, "But as I was saying, I don't care about what you do on the Dark Net, but if you do something too out of line and cause our identity to get exposed, then I'm going to care, a lot. Let me ask you, what did you really teach Han?" Pathless Origin lowered his head to avoid eye contact, and mumbled, "Teach him. Am I bored out of my mind? I don't find a genius to teach, but find someone insanely stupid among the trillions of people and teach him. Am I retarded?" Nightwalker laughed and pointed his finger at him. "You are such an unreasonable old man, your whole life you've been getting the worst of it because of your mouth. Take a look at this." He gently swiped his finger across the thin air and dragged out a display. In screen it was playing that fight between Han and the raiders. He not only completed 8 kills, but ultimately robbing the bomb and forced the raiders to retreat. That fight is the true definition of heroic and exciting, Han charging fearlessly into a group of strong enemies as if it's nothing. Especially that moment when Han yelled, "I don't have anything else, but I still got a bunch of tough bones." No one's blood was not boiling and calm after watching that scene. Then it was the scene of Han falling into the water, his body becoming a block of ice, and that was the end of the clip. Night Walker pointed at that block of ice. Look at him yourself, that body of demonic spirit, he's almost a monster now, and you said you didn't teach him. Pathless Origin was silent like usual, but he let out a slight sigh, his 2 fingers that were holding of a piece of chess shivered for a few times. So, is Han really dead? Alright homies, one more exam this weekend and then I will be free until one more exam on the 27th. Thank you guys for being so patient, so watch out for how many chapters coming your way starting from this Sunday night. Chapter 38. Monsters. You are listening at novelfull.audio. So Han's really dead? Pathless Origin tried to ask while hiding his emotions. Night Walker hesitated for a second, and lightly shook his head. Nope, he just went into a coma, that's all. I noticed that Han's index number wasn't updating for a few days, so I went onto the web servers on Earth, where Han lives, and did a bit of research. As a result, I came across this video about Han that went viral. It seemed like everyone on Earth sees Han as a hero now. That video's content was very short, it wasn't everything you just saw. That's because I found a famous hacker on the dark net and paid him to hack into Earth's United Government's Esper administration. That video you just saw was what we got. But suddenly, a strong light came across Night Walker's eyes. Pathless, seems like age didn't set your skills back that much. Han didn't know you for more than a month and, not mentioning other things, Han's sheer force of character already resembles you quite a bit. Hearing that Han was still alive, Pathless finally let out a long sigh and a bitter smile. I'm not going to lie, I really got old. Just moments ago when I thought Han was dead, I was actually really disappointed and sorry. Pathless continued, but actually, Han was able to achieve this height was not all because of me. I just taught him how to be a true warrior, and also taught him effective ways to practice for combat as someone who had power immunity, and that was all. Today's results was more due to his hardworking character. Night Walker laughed. You really think Han's power is power immunity? Pathless waved his hand. Of course not, if I can't even notice that then I might as well run into a wall and die. Let me show you something. Quickly, Pathless pulled out a large graph, and which was Han's power source index's progression scale. Although verbally he said that he couldn't care less about Han, but behind the curtains he took the time and carefully summarized all of Han's progression data into graphs. Below the graphs were a lot of notes Pathless made. It was obvious how much he valued Han. Night saw the graph and was shocked. Such a steep slope. Pathless nodded. I've never seen it before too. Without a question, he inherited a super soldier's power crystal. Now that I come to think about it, Han took so much drugs, why was he still able to escape death and survive? You are the expert in this realm, you should know. Night lost in thought for a brief moment. To be honest, Han's survival actually troubled me for a few days as well. It shouldn't be. An overdose of illegal drugs in one mouthful, not just some 3-star Esper like Han, even you might be half ruined. Doviko, the reason I invited you to meet today was also for solving this mystery. Coming with the training method you taught Han, maybe it can be explained why he was able to escape from death. Pathless laughed and said, Old Black, you told me to stay quiet on the dark net, but aren't you the same as me? The moment there's some challenging problem about drugs, you get excited. Then, Pathless quickly changed his tone of voice and answered seriously, what I taught Han was the extremity oppression method, risking one's life to force out the power crystal's potential during early stages. I forced Han to train in cold water. Rather than calling this training his body and skills, it is more suitable to be described as training his life. Since I never inherited anyone's power, I never actually put this method into practice before. Han was the first one. Forcefully activating the full potential of the power crystal, I actually didn't know what would happen too. Night Walker continued Pathless' chain of thought. So what you are saying is, maybe it was because Han's power crystal was too powerful, it protected Han at the most crucial moment and forced Han into a self-defense mode. Kind of like the electric fuse box tripping when the current is too high. And because Han was always practicing in the freezing water, every time he entered the cold water would simulate his 0-degree region to a high degree. And when he fell down into the freezing water, the result that occurred was the unexplained coma situation. Oh right, there's also something else that's interesting. Han's not really a power immunity esper. Do you know what his real power is? Pathless thought for a bit. Don't laugh at me, but I feel like his power is void end. Of course, I know it's impossible because the only one in this world that has that power is Yi Shui Han. It's impossible that Han got void end because that would be too much of a coincidence. Suddenly, before Pathless even finished, a crafty smile appeared on Nightwalker's face. What are you laughing at? It's really void end. Han actually inherited that monster's power. Pathless questioned in excitement. Nightwalker nodded slightly. It's really void end. When I saw the data I was shocked too. Couldn't believe that after that old monster Yi Shui Han comes a little monster Han. Looks like the Milky Way won't be at rest with the birth of Han. Holy shit. It's really void end. Pathless slapped his leg loudly and yelled, when I first saw Yi Shui Han I was so disgusted that I was going to puke. I couldn't use any power, not even a single skill. I felt like a complete moron at that time. At that moment I thought, I never want to meet that guy again, ever. That monster, it's not enough that he doesn't have any fancy powers, but he doesn't let anyone else have any too. What kind of unreasonable power is that? I can't believe Han actually inherited that monster's void end. Oh, that doesn't even end there. After inheriting that monster Yi Shui Han's power, he also got trained by a monster like you. Han's like a monster among the monsters now. Nightwalker laughed and said, I named myself Nightwalker out of my respect for Yi Shui Han, TL. Yi Shui Han directly translates to night water cold. The moment he enters the battle, all of you guys became idiots. Oh boy, it's funny every time I think of it. The days with Yi Shui Han was actually pretty fun. Countless of elites were trolled hard by him. Pathless curled his lips. Nightwalker opening up his old scars made him kind of depressed and speechless, but he had to admit it, Yi Shui Han was really a troublesome guy back in the days, and almost all espers hated him. Nightwalker once again took off a piece from the chessboard. Both of them had a very unique style of playing chess. Pathless' style was cruel and merciless, but Nightwalker was always able to calmly resolve any dangerous situations with a few moves. I'm thinking, Han already inherited that monster Yi Shui Han's power, and also got trained by a monster like you. I might as well do something too. Nightwalker said. Pathless was shocked for quite a bit. Old Black, you are finally going to do something now. Nightwalker nodded slightly. We will see. Han's current comatose state is a challenging question I've never encountered. I want to try to solve it. Also, you tested a training method on Han that you never tested before. How come I can't test a drug on him that I've never made before on him? It's only fair that way. Pathless shrugged his shoulder, and said helplessly, fine, Han's the lab rat. Yi Shui Han's power, my training, your poisonous monster's medicines, if all three of us monsters all use force on his, I have a feeling, if Han can wake up from this, his life is going to be really tough. Nightwalker smiled slightly. Then that's settled. Tomorrow I will ship some special medicine for him. If he can wake up, then he will continue to train under you, you monster. Oh, by the way, do you think that our other monster is interested in giving Han a hand? Pathless Origin quickly waved his hand. You want to involve him too? What do you want Han to turn into? A real monster. Chapter 39. Golden Injections. You are listening at novelfull.audio. New York, Esper Administration Central Hospital. Han still laid unconscious on his bed. His room was filled with flowers. The majority were sent from his colleagues at the Extinction Administration, and some were from his friends from the China Division, like Qing Zhong, Li Qi, the monk, Li Muyun, Chu Li, etc. Overnight, Han had become a hero. It was unclear who, but someone uploaded that video of Han fighting off an entire group of raiders on his own, and it soon went viral globally. At first, there was that bronze bull warrior Peng Zhuolin and his last words, "Doesn't matter how weak Earth is, it's still my home." It was known to everyone on Earth, motivating countless espers on Earth. Now there's Han, shouting out another war cry that made everyone's blood boil. "I don't have anything else, but I still got a bunch of tough bones." The name Tough Bone Han spread like wildfire and everyone sincerely prayed for Han. Outside of the hospital, every day there were people coming to send flowers. They couldn't get into the highly classified hospital, so they just left the beautiful flowers neatly placed at the front yard, which became a beautiful sight. Li Yu and Wu Di arrived to visit Han again. To Han, Li Yu was full with appreciation. He smiled bitterly. "At first, I just wanted to find a good place for him to train, so I brought him in by exception. Now that I think about it, I actually took advantage of Han instead. If it wasn't for him that day, then the extinction site would be long destroyed by the raiders, even we would be dead too. I really hope that he wakes up soon. Earth really need talented espers like Han." Wu Di said in great grief. He defended the gate to the extinction domain with his life and protected Earth's last hope, but he didn't even get a chance to look at the domain once. God is so unfair, giving someone so talented such bitter ending. Li Yu's feeling towards Han's level progression was both excited but also suspicious. In just 1 month, Han climbed from a beginner all the way to a 3-star rank. This speed of improvement, can't say that it can't be surpassed, but at least there weren't any who can claim they can mimic it. Now, no one even compared Han with that legendary Kalake, because Han's potential has far exceeded Kalake's. Wu Di's hidden communicator sounded. Wu Di had a brief conversation and turned to Li Yu. "Teacher, there's a delivery for Han, it's from a foreign planet." Li Yu was shocked for a bit. Han did mention that he had a very powerful friend from space, and that miraculous 0-degree brain region revitalizer was from that friend. "Hurry, let them bring in the package." Very quickly, a security guard from the gate delivered the bag to Han's room. The bag didn't have any caption saying where it came from, nor was there a name of the sender. But judging by the shipping company in the packaging, it's obviously a delivery from outer space. Li Yu thought about it. Maybe Han's mysterious friend knows that he's in a coma. That's why he sent this package. But how did he know to send it to the hospital address instead of Han's house? Wu Di frowned and asked, "Teacher, should we open it for Han and check?" Li Yu considered for a brief moment and decided to open the package. It was their only chance, because with the medical skills and equipment on Earth it wasn't even clear why he's in a coma, not to mentioning curing it. Li Yu knew that Han had a friend in the medical field from outer space, and in his eyes this package could very likely be the last hope. The important thing right now was waking Han from the dead. He quickly opened the package only to see a very refined alloy safe box. It looked really high-end, and after opening it, they saw that the inside was filled with cold air, containing 12 automatic injectors and a set of instructions. Li Yu carefully read the instructions. It seemed like those automatic injectors were really medicine to cure Han. The sender of the package didn't state his name but only said that he's Han's friend, knew that Han's in trouble and that he prepared a special course of medical treatment for Han. About whether the special medicine could cure Han, this mysterious person didn't make any promises. According to him, this injections meant hope, and without them there won't be any hope for Han to wake up. Li Yu thought about it for a long time, decided to first test the drug ingredients, and use it on Han when he made sure it's safe. After all, Han's already in this kind of condition. Li Yu couldn't let go of any hope. So, Li Yu found the most experienced doctor, the head of the hospital, Chiu Taibua. He told Taibua everything, and Taibua immediately agreed to drop everything he was doing, use Earth's most advanced and only lab that was fully equipped with outer space technology to analyze the mysterious golden fluids inside the injectors. The lab had a glass wall facing the hall, and Li Yu was staring nervously from the other side. The investigation continued from afternoon all the way until midnight. Xiao Taibua and a few of his assistants walked out of the lab in confusion, took off their lab protection clothing, and wiped off the sweat off their forehead with the back of their hands. What's the result? Li Yu asked anxiously. Xiao Taibua responded slowly, his eyes full with surprise. Too miraculous, these medicines are truly miraculous. The degree of activity of the molecules is unimaginably clear. We used all the equipment in this lab and still couldn't gain any understanding on this medicine. Li Yu was shocked. Chief Qiu, you are someone that was sent by United Government to an extremely developed planet to learn medicine, not even you can figure it out. Not just me. My teacher when I was out there studying, is Koluan Republic's top 10 specialists in pharmacology. I sent him the data we took, and not even he could figure out what's going on. Li Yu thought about it, that means this medicine is actually really high level. Xiao Taibua said in a deeper voice, very high. My teacher said, this medicine's molecules are very active, even if you leave it for 10,000 years it wouldn't degrade at all. The combination of different materials is highly precise, not even the most advanced machine can reach this level of precision. And as for the components of the medicine, it is totally unknown. It probably used some hidden pharmacology technology. Li Yu was really confused now. That means, the friend that sent this medicine is actually a grand master in medicine. Xiao Taibua looked around to check that there's no one else, and lowered his voice. My teacher said, unless it is one of the top 20 grand medicine masters in Milky Way, no one else would be able to reach this level of precision. It was prepared completely by hand, and that master's strength is beyond measure. Gudu, sound of swallowing saliva. Li Yu swallowed a heavy load of saliva. He thought that grandmasters in medicine was already the top existence, but who would have thought, Han's friend was actually the present medicine god. And he's ranked within the top 20 in the entire Milky Way. After a long time, Li Yu finally withdrew his surprised expression, and he said in a deep voice, we must keep this confidential. Xiao Taibua nodded, that goes without saying. My teacher told me numerous times too. Attempting to reverse engineer the receipt of a medicine god, if that existence finds out about it, then I would be truly screwed. Li Yu still couldn't wrap what he just learned around his head as he returned to Han's room. He realized that the longer he knew Han the less he knew about him. A teenager that was able to jump to 3-star in a month, an existence that convinced the present medicine god to prepare treatment for, the Han Lang that is currently lying lifeless on the bed, he was definitely a monster. Wu Di asked quietly, teacher, should we use the medicine? Li Yu hesitated, bit his teeth and said, of course, a grandmaster in medicine sent this from outer space, maybe Han can really return from the dead like a miracle. Wu Di nodded as he carefully carried the alloy box over. If Li Yu didn't know how high level this medicine was then it would have been fine. But now that he knew about the complexity and value of these injections, his hands started to shiver. Rolling up Han's sleeves and sterilizing with an alcohol rub, Li Yu ultimately made up his mind, and pushed the injector into Han's vein. Even the injector is so high-tech, the whole process was automatic. There was a chip inside the injector that checked Han's heartbeat and blood pressure level to monitor his reaction towards the injected medicine, then adjusted the injection speed accordingly. After the injection, it self-destructed and erased any leftover content of the medicine. Shua the golden fluid was injected into Han's body, it quickly spread throughout Han's body. Han's skin slowly turned ruby red, with strange white steam coming out. Chapter 40. Half of the Heart of Darkness. You are listening at novelfull.audio. In the virtual world. Pathless and Knight met again, still playing that galactic chess while talking about Han. Old Black, judging by the time, Han should be doing his last injection now, right? What did you give him? Will it wake him up from the enclosed state that his 0-degree brain region is in? Pathless Origin asked curiously. Night Walker pushed up his golden-framed glasses and responded mysteriously, I don't know about waking up or not, but I know that if he does wake up, he would be a true monster. Pathless Origin was shocked for a second. Monster. What did you give him? Is it your best force of Milky Way? Night Walker slightly shook his head. Then it's 9-layer starlight. Night Walker still shook his head, and smiled. Do you still remember the Heart of Darkness? Pathless Origin curled his lips. Of course, that heart is one of the reasons why we are stuck in the dark net. It's all your fault, you were so possessed and determined to steal that thing. Wait, no, don't tell me you actually used the Heart of Darkness as a base for the medicine you made for Han. That was your treasure. Night Walker answered indifferently, the most valuable materials are only valuable because of what they can make. Han's void end belongs to the dark and mysterious descent, which is kind of related to the power of darkness, and the Heart of Darkness is among the highest concentrated dark material you can use in medicine, so the two should be able to work together. All these years, I've been focused on investigating the properties and medical reactions of the Heart of Darkness, and I discovered that its true nature is really scary. Normal people can't use it, only espers like Han with dark mysterious descent powers can possibly trigger the effect of the heart. A few hundred pills were swallowed at once by Han, yet he's still alive. That says enough about how unique Han's 0-degree brain region is. It has a powerful self-defense mode, but it's still not the solution. That's why I chose to fight poison with poison. Fight poison with poison? Pathless asked curiously, you mean letting the Heart of Darkness to attack the poison that already resides in Han's body? Night Walker nodded. I used half of Heart of Darkness combined with 1,000 golden yellow and silver blue skyline to make this special medicine and divided into a course of 12 injections. If my calculations aren't wrong, Heart of Darkness will first react with the existing poison in Han's body. The first 3 injections that enter Han's body won't hurt Han because his lifeline has already been isolated and protected by the 0-degree brain region. After 3 doses, not only will Han not die, the poison inside his body would be cleared empty. At that moment, Han should already build up immunity towards Heart of Darkness, which means that Heart of Darkness is no longer a poison that can kill Han. At that moment, injecting large amounts of Heart of Darkness will allow Han to completely adapt to the power of the heart. After the 12 doses completely enters Han's body, then his tolerance to Heart of Darkness will also reach the pinnacle. At that moment, the heart isn't just not going to kill Han, but will become a part of Han's body. Pathless Origin swallowed a mouthful of cold air, taking advantage of the defensive measures of Han's 0-degree brain region to force Han to adopt the Heart of Darkness therapy, ultimately absorbing the most dangerous and unreasonable dark medicine in Milky Way. Night Walker's technique is still as on point as before. If everything you said happened, Han will ultimately clear out all the poison in his body and take control of the Heart of Darkness, then what happens? Pathless asked in curiosity. Night Walker answered in a deep voice, 2 main effects. First, Han will naturally wake up as healthy as ever. Second, because Han's body will gain the power of half of Heart of Darkness, Han will grow an extremely strong tolerance for poison. I can't say he will be totally immune, but it can at least provide up to 90% immunity from poison damage. Pathless clapped out of excitement, 90% reduction to poison. That means, if other people can only eat 2 or 3 nuclear energy pills before dying, Han can eat 10 or 20 consecutively and still have no problem. That means he can eat the drugs with less severe side effects like candy. And since Han already has void end, if he has to face a strong opponent, he can still kill them by just taking drugs and pills. An overpowered physical property of almost full immunity to poison, it's awesome just thinking about it. Night Walker smiled, it doesn't even end there. Why did Han improve that fast? It's because he absorbed Yi Shuihan's power crystal. Yi Shuihan had the foundation of a 6-star warlord, and with your extreme training methods to add a bit of pressure and force some of that energy from the 0-degree brain region, that's why Han's level skyrocketed. But about what will happen later, you know too, it is almost impossible to fully inherit the power from the predecessor. Yi Shuihan's a 6-star warlord, minus that loss from inheritance, then Han would only be able to reach around 5-star tops. Night Walker stopped for a second, and continued, now if Han can really wake up, his body would naturally gain half of the Heart of Darkness. What does that mean? It's the natural antitoxin, which means that unless he takes something more poisonous than the Heart of Darkness, no other drug will hurt him. That means, Han can take large amounts of support medicine during training, like source energy pills that boosts training efficiency. Other people can only eat one per day, but now Han can eat 5, 10, or 15 and still be fine. Then top that with your unique extreme training. Even if Han uses up all of the potential that Yi Shui Han left him, it's still okay, because those drugs will still allow Han to keep on reaching breakthroughs and let his level soar through the sky. You tell me if it's awesome or not. Pathless Origin had never been this excited in a long time. Awesome, too awesome. I can't even wait to see the expressions on other people's face when they meet Han. They finally waited till the death of Yi Shui Han, and now here comes Han. Not only did he inherit that Yi Shui Han's power, his potential is even better than him. All the espers will go insane after meeting Han. But Old Black, this time you really used your most hard-earned capital. The Heart of Darkness is unique in the entire Milky Way and thus it's priceless. You used half of it at once for Han, wouldn't it make your heart ache? Night Walker's eyes suddenly dimmed, he let out a long sigh. I must say, being stuck here in the dark net, you aren't the only one getting bored. Although I got a wife and daughter and the management of a company to keep me busy, it's still incomparable to before. His gaze moved to the horizon. Night Walker continued, we both can never return to the past, we can only sit here in boredom. But luckily, fate finally showed us its good side, and gave us the chance to meet someone interesting like Han. Helping him is actually helping me. Han has the talent, determination, hard-working character, stubborn personality, he really resembles us when we just entered the Milky Way. Being able to watch Han grow bit by bit, is my biggest spiritual sustenance right now. Pathless Origin let out a long sigh too. There's nothing we could do for ourselves at this stage, at last we offended someone that can't be offended. This huge Milky Way actually doesn't have anywhere else for us to go. Let's just wait and see. Today's the day for Han's last injection. Hopefully he will get better soon.